Hello and welcome to another edition of Inside Leominster. My name is Dean Mazzarella, Mayor for the City of Leominster. Thanks for watching, and we are at one of our precious jewels here today. We are at Barrett Park, and there's not a day or a week that goes by that I don't bump into somebody that says, I just went to Barrett Park for the first time ever. And I think to myself, really? And they're like, yeah, I lived here for a long time. I never had a chance to go to Barrett Park. I just haven't had the time. I live on the other side of town, and then a friend asked to go for a walk, or hey, have you ever been there? And next thing you know, I'm here, and I'm amazed, and I'm pleased, and it's a different place. When I was a kid, and we jumped on our Stingray bicycles and drove up here from Lancaster or 6th Street or French Hill, wherever it might be, with our friends, and we came and we sat, pretty much swam up here, but that was pretty much the extent of it. It didn't look the way it looks like today, and pavilions and places to have cookouts and paths that go around the pond. Unfortunately, we don't have swimming anymore. The regulations have certainly changed. In the future, you'll see less and less public swimming at public ponds and lakes, just because the regulations are changing all of the time, and that's why we pretty much went with splash parks, etc. But this is a wonderful resource. This belongs to you. Thank you for your support. We've applied for a number of grants up here at Barrett Park and Pond, and we use some city money, but mostly grants that we were able to get. But grant by grant, project by project, has really made this into the facility that it is. And my guest today is the Director of Recreation, Judith Sumner. And nobody knows this area, Judy, better than you.
Oh, thank you, Mayor, for having
every
me on.
single inch of this place. And you've seen the transformation. You've been here for 27 years, same as me, right?
Yes, I have.
So you've seen this go from, where it was before to...
It was very wooded. You couldn't see the pond from the parking lot or from our office. So we worked with the landscape architect, Andrew Leonard, and he had a great vision, and the Leominster Trail Stewards worked with us. And we had several volunteer groups that worked with us to help make this place as beautiful as it is today.
The first year, Veronica Russell, God rest her soul, Veronica Russell's a big thing. It was, swimming at Barrett Park, and just to reflect a little bit on that, and so that was a big thing for her. And, to have kids, and it really, we don't own any lake or ponds in Leominster. We have a little bit of a boat ramp down there at Whalum, but it's very small. So we don't really have access. And so this is it. And so for a short time, if you were hired at that particular point, but we took tests of the water, clarity of the water, and for a short time, we were able to open up swimming here.
But as soon as people were in the water, stirring it up, there was too much sedimentation.
Yeah, water stopped coming in.
Yes, and
in the summer.
It's like a kettle hole, and there were some springs, and the springs are right now maybe covered up, so you don't have that constant water coming in. And as the community developed, upstream, so things ended up being that there's no more water source coming here. Right. The only thing is that, is a concern. We want to make sure that this pond stays clean. Yeah. I know at Dunn Park they had to close because they had that blue-green algae.
Yeah.
And
are they still closed now?
I don't know if they're open back up again, but that happens when you have too much nutrients coming in, and then the water becomes stagnant. So we put in a fountain to help keep the water moving.
Sure, irrigates it. Sure.
Yes, yeah. And the DEP had told us that if we wanted to apply for any water, grants to keep the water clean and to keep it from becoming nutrient loaded,
Right.
that we couldn't allow dogs here. So that was a little bit of disappointment to a lot of people in the community. You know, there's over 2,000 licensed dog
Yeah.
owners in the city.
And it's a nice place to walk your dog, but at
it
the
is.
same time, you know, we even saw it around the reservoirs just naturally. We own
Yeah.
all the land around the reservoirs, and we were still getting bacterial counts that might have been higher than normal,
Yeah.
and it was coming from just from animals in the woods.
Yes,
You know,
yeah.
and it wasn't even from dogs. So
that
right
was
now
that
it's-
was their concern. So the commission had to take a stance because they needed to know how we would control, you know, hundreds or maybe over 1,000 dogs here in the park.
Right.
So unfortunately,
So the water
we
is
had to
clean. It's not
stop
swimmable
that.
because it gets murky, and you have to see within so many feet.
And 4 feet of visibility.
Yeah, and we can't meet that, but we do keep the water clean,
Yes,
and we
yeah.
manage the area around it, and it's got a beautiful waterfall. We won't see it today, but every once in a while somebody will post like, "How come I never knew about this?" There's a little,
I know. Yeah.
pretty decent sized waterfall in the back
In the
there.
spring it is, yeah.
And
The state stocks it with trout.
Right.
So, you know,
Couple
they do
times a
test
year.
the water, so the water has the quality to, you know, support the trout here. And a lot of people come fishing here. And once they stock the pond in the spring, the place is packed with
Yeah.
people coming, you know. I mean, there's
They're
enough
still
room there that
growing
you
in
can
there. There must be still some big ones in there.
I saw a couple of fishermen coming today. Sometimes when it gets warmer, you don't have the, you know, the trout. The trout kind of go deeper to
Right.
where the water's cooler. But no, people are still catching trout here.
So we want,
that's
you know, we get excited because it's a park, and we want people to come walk, and there's a playground behind us, and, you know, just it's super quiet here, right? Just peaceful, a day in the country. But so many other groups use it. As soon as they see the space, like, this would be perfect for, describe and explain, you know, some of the other uses and groups that use this, church and.
Yes, yeah, there's other groups, you know, people that just want to come here. We have a nice pavilion here that, you know, you can hold, you know, there's a maximum of 50 in a group that you can have now and outside
we have our meetings here.
activities. So you can have meetings here. The Leominster Trail Stewards come and they meet here. Project Apples came and they had their meeting here. You know, Bible groups come here and meet. Families come. The only thing is first come, first serve. Families come and they have little, you know, little birthday parties, you know, small groups,
Yeah.
you know, of just their close families here. So it is open. I mean, we do reserve it for different meetings and
Right.
groups, so you need to check with our office if you are planning on coming here to the park to make sure that it isn't reserved.
Last year we had one of our first actual Winterfest, and Judy schedules a Winterfest every year. And for some reason, it either rains or warms up to the point where the ice is
There's
not.
no ice,
But
yeah.
this year, it was sort of interesting. This past year, and it worked out pretty well. There were kids on the ice. The ice was
Yeah.
pretty thick.
They were skating, yeah.
And they were skating, and the emergency management, the fire department do some rescue,
Yeah.
and we had a fire going, and so it was pretty cool to have it because I don't know how many years in a row it just ended up having to cancel it because
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the weather, but it is just a beautiful place, and the building, we're sitting on a deck right now, and this was I don't know, what did they call this?
This was the bathhouse.
The bathhouse. And so,
Yeah.
but it now has a pretty big room inside that's all been done over, this beautiful deck, modern bathrooms, I should say, right?
Yes,
Instead
they're
of
all
little,
handicapped accessible. Yeah.
and now we
all-
can have yoga and Pilates and small
Yeah.
groups down here.
Small groups, yeah, we're trying to keep
But
it to 10.
It's a beautiful building. It really is. And then, with the help of CTEI and some funds from the city, we took the house. Now, the house used to be the caretaker's house.
It was a caretaker's house, yeah.
And he and the family would live there, and basically their job was to take care of this entire
Yes.
property.
Well, during the Depression, the federal government had funds to pay people to work.
Right.
Because people were
Unemployed.
out of work,
Right.
so they paid workers to come here, and they built some older pavilions, which they no longer stand.
Right.
And then they also built the caretaker's house. So, and they did a lot of work here in the park.
And so then that went away, and then we had the recreation department office moved up here.
Yeah.
And then we realized, it's not handicap accessible.
Yes.
We have a meeting,
Yeah.
people want to come in, they can't get in, it's not accessible to all. So with CTE and our own employees that work here and everybody, Ralph Sacramone did
Right.
some of the work there. Now we have this really nice office facility, a beautiful facility here. And it just gets, there's so much use here. There's never a time when I've come up here, very seldom, no matter what season it is, that there's not somebody here walking around or gathering. And
there's more and more families coming here, people pushing strollers. I'm amazed at how many young families there are in the community now. And it's wheelchair accessible and stroller accessible. You can go all the way around the pond. And the Leominster Trail stewards worked with developing a whole network of trails here in the park. So, and I worked with that group, and we had a map made of this facility, and we put all new numbering systems at every intersection. And so now they put in posts at every intersection. So every intersection
so you know where you are.
Of the trail will have a number on it, and that will show you where you are on the map in the park, and then where things are located, where the waterfall is located, where the parking lot's located, where the pavilions are, where the playground is. So that is at every intersection of the walking trails here, so that you can't get lost in the park.
Well, not only that, but sometimes, and that's a good thing.
And it has distances as well. It tells you how far that loop trail is.
But also, if I come here and I'm like, I found this really cool trail, and then you come back and you're like, geez, I don't remember where it was. Well, I have a map now, and I can remember at least a number or something that hints to jogs my memory to remind me that this is the trail that I wanted to take you on, or you should visit this particular trail.
Right. So the maps are at our office, or you can go online to the Recreation Department's website and download that map to have that. And you can also, there's QR codes on it. You can capture that QR code with your cell phone, and so then you can expand it and have it on your phone if you would like to show somebody, or to look at it before you come, or while you're here. Just at every intersection is the map.
Right. Our bet was, and our strategy for the city was, that especially after there was so much development in the city, our strategy really was to preserve. And I think I've shared a couple of stories where my grandfather, when he moved from Boston, from the west end of Boston, moved to Bill Ricker at the time. And Bill Ricker was lots of farms and open space. But years later, I would go back to visit because my grandfather passed away, and he had moved back with my aunt at the time, and so they had left the town. And I just remember going back, and I'm like, whatever happened? I mean, everything is built on around here, and so that was pretty much the catalyst for the jump start for. We have to look at our city, 1993, 1994, and say, if we keep up on this, if we keep up with all this development, at the end of the day, what's our community going to look like? So we rolled the dice somewhat on the speculative end of it all, and we took some risk, and invested heavily on purchasing open space, which not only controlled development and growth in the city, but just so happened to protect our water supplies. Right. So it was like a 3-for-1, because it provided us with trails and open space, controlled development, and also control the quality of our reservoirs and water, which is critical. But little did we know, and we bet on that. That was our first bet. The second bet would be that eventually all the development going on in the eastern part of the state, Boston and all that area, would eventually just choke itself out, so that the part of the attraction of being in those areas would now become a second look to say, you know what, it was a great place, but now it's 2 hours for me to get there. I can't drive there anymore. Getting on the subway, hello there, how's everybody doing? What'd you do today?
We went for a hike.
You did?
We read our story.
You did? You're already off to a good start. It's not even noontime yet.
Time for lunch.
Well, enjoy the day.
You too.
Have a burger for me.
Oh, I want to.
So our bet was, and then it came through just before COVID sort of hit, when at all our MassDOT meetings, it's a 2-hour ride. There's not enough room on the subway. There's not enough room on buses, and it was beginning to become counterproductive. And so that was our second bet, is that people are going to look more towards open space and a country living, but still have access to jobs, etc. That was our second bet. And then came COVID. And all of a sudden, our strategy for open space and for offering an alternative to congestion and pollution, and taking 2 hours 4 hours of your life every day in and out of Boston, in and out of the city, really started to take its toll. And then here we are, and then all of a sudden, these parks are full every day, and people are discovering, who didn't have time before because they spent 4 hours in traffic, are discovering, beautiful places like this, and our tennis courts at Doyle and Doyle Field and Prospect Park, all those trails up at the end of West Street, from Sholin Farms all the way. You know them better than anybody, those trails. And we were at Sholin last week, and I was describing, and I'll let you sort of jump into this, but I was saying you leave Sholin Farms and you never leave city property. You get all the way up to Route 31 in Fitchburg or Leominster State Forest or to Moonoosknock Hill. You've never left, it's like 9 miles. You've never left city property. And I don't mean a little easement where it's like a 20-foot right away. I'm talking swaths.
Right.
Of
You could
land.
just start right at Sholin Farms and come
Right.
all the way across. You would just cross,
Right.
you would cross
A street
Wachusett
or
Street
something.
and then and hop on, just cross the street and you're still on a trail. And the same with Elm Street. You would cross Elm Street and go on the trail. You could cross and then just go all the way over to West Street by Route 2.
And never
that's
leave
like a
city
9-mile.
property.
And actually, I am going to do a hike coming up the end of this month, the last Saturday this month. We're going to do social distancing, and people are going to have to register
of
with
course.
me ahead of time, so I can limit the number of people. But I'll lead a hike and show people the network trail. And if they just want to do sections of it, I can work with them on where they would park their car if they only wanted to see a section of it, because some people maybe want to go on the trails, but they don't know where they are and they don't feel comfortable. So I will lead that for them. And we have other hikes coming up. We have full moon hikes coming up that we're going
I'm
to
told
try.
that after 9 miles, you're like, okay, does anybody want to go back, or does anybody want to do another 5 miles? And everyone's kind of looking at you like, well, wait a minute, where's my car?
Yes, you're tired that day.
I've had enough here. But they say you know every single piece of this and all the history behind it. There's a lot of history because.
And then there's a whole that's just the
No
main
town
Moonoosknock. That's just the main Moonoosknock trunk trail.
Right.
But there are over 25 miles of network trails that all interconnect and they all lead to that
Have you been
trail
on all
as
of them?
well. I'm a little bit. I have been on all of them, but I don't know the trails by No Town that well.
Yeah.
I always ask somebody else to lead those because we need to mark those better. So that's
Firefighter Kennedy probably has that all down.
Yes, he does.
Right?
Yes,
He's
the firefighter Kennedy knows all those trails.
He's our reservoir patrol person here. He keeps an eye on things for us, but he knows that place pretty well because when they have a fire or something, he knows where the fire roads are and all of that. Even when you get up to Sholin Farms, if you get on May Street or you connect from Sholin Farms, you take one of the paths behind the Powers property in that general vicinity, you'll hook you up into this road that follows that reservoir, the Fall Brook Reservoir. And it's 30 feet wide, plenty of room for souls. And it's not rocky or anything. It's pretty flat. And for people that, have a difficult time, knees or joint problems, it's a really great.
It's a nice flat area to walk.
Looking right all over the reservoir.
Yeah,
Now,
it can take you way down to the Hayward Reservoir area. And actually, those all hook up to the Wiki Peaky.
Right.
And down in Sterling, there's a whole network of trails down in there.
That connect.
Yes, that do. Yeah.
So this just
I
goes
ask
on
people
forever.
to lead me on those because I don't know all those trails because they aren't marked as well as ours are.
But it's an amazing trail system that we have, and the part I like is coming fall, and it will be. Especially around that May Street, anywhere around the reservoir where you get that reflection.
It's beautiful.
It's just absolutely breathtaking. You catch it on the right days, and you can do some apple picking at Sholin, and then take the trail down. They're all marked.
Yes.
And then get on to that May Street area or down towards Hayward where you have that reflection of the leaves and the trees from the water. It's that mirror lake effect is just breathtaking. And you don't have to go far. That's why I say we own fall. Between apple picking and, I like to say that when we carved off a section of Lancaster and it became Leominster and the Holtons being the first family, that we got the best part of it. We got 12 hills that surround Leominster,
nice.
which is, from any hill in any direction, breathtaking. You get up to Moonoosknock Hill or South Moonoosknock Hill or Bigelow Hill up there on Joslyn Street. I just sit there in awe thinking, the White Mountains, it's nice, but This is right here in your backyard. This is like a 5-minute ride from, from almost any part of the city.
Well, I've been told that, up at Mount Watadic, there are so many people there and parking on the highway that they had the town of Ashburn had a lot of issues with too many people
There's
there.
no parking there now. They'll tow you or ticket you.
They'll tow you because it was a hazard, people parking on the highway and too many people there. And everyone said, well, just go to your backyard in Leominster. You don't need to drive.
You have the biggest backyard of anybody.
You don't need to drive. It's right here. And there's so many trails that you can be out there and you can be social distance from people.
If you've ever had the chance, you can go to the end of West Street. There's a little parking lot, or you can get up behind the quarry, and it's some climbing, right? Some hiking
And
involved.
also, Leominster State Forest is right there, right at the end of, right on off of Elm Street. We have a parking lot there that you can access.
And that connects.
All those trails. There's, I'm not sure, there's over 1,000 acres on there of Leominster State Forest too.
We purchased it all, and so if you get to that point up beyond the quarry, and if you don't know where it is, we'll show you. But you get up there, and you now face, is that North Moonoosuc Hill? Because it looks out over Princeton Park, Mount Wachusett side.
That's the north, yes.
It's absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah, it is.
There's a little seat there, and not a lot of people know about it. Probably a lot of people don't want me to share it because it's such a quiet spot. But that's another place. Maybe we do a hike of that and bring people to the top of that section. It's some climbing. You can also get to it from Elm Street, I think.
Yes.
I get to it from
Elm Street. You go
the back of the treatment plant, distributing reservoir.
Yes,
I park at the bottom. We walk up that section, and we catch it. We catch it that way.
Or you can even go at the end of Granite Street and take the trail straight up, also.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's different. There's all kinds of places to access it, but the quickest way to access is right on Elm Street by the power lines.
And you can walk right through, and it's less
climbing.
climbing.
It's a little climb.
But coming from the back of the distributing reservoir, you've got to climb up that hill just to get to that point. But it all depends what range. But if you live here in Leominster, you shouldn't miss that view. It's just I can't even explain it. It's equivalent to going to the top of Mount Watadic or somewhere else. So this is the season. We're going to be shifting gears from summer to fall, and you're going to feel a lot better about getting out there and hiking and moving around. I know the heat gets to me, and I'm not as excited about climbing and pulling and tugging as I am in the fall. I get like this resurgence, this like over energy, like I drank 14 bottles of Jolt, that I want to get out there and enjoy the outdoors, and you get rid of the insects for the most part. Although mosquitoes really didn't bother me that bad this year.
Bad, no.
Probably because it wasn't as much rain, so it wasn't as much stagnant water, and that gives you the mosquitoes. But I did okay.
And the ticks
year.
haven't been bad at all, too.
Really.
And you see.
So the fall's kicking in, and you'll be doing hikes. Now we talked yesterday at our department head meeting, Judy, about what the fall's going to look like in winter, because some fall sports will happen and some won't. And flag football, we're kind of like, on the edge here. And I know there are communities. I saw a sign around Middleton, trying to think of the other town that might be in that area. They had a sign up for fall. But our issue is we really want to make sure there's compliance and that there's somebody in the league that's good. So there are sports that football right now is no football. Basketball is looking like that's going to be a challenge, correct?
Yep.
So
because that's all indoors, and so we might not be able to do that. But right now, the Recreation Commission is meeting this coming Wednesday, and they're going to meet with Jack Reed from Leominster Flag Football. So he has a COVID-19 plan, and he has a COVID officer. So we'll go over the guidelines with him. So we'll discuss, if this is something that we'll be able to offer, in the city of Leominster. So, the guidelines state that is a high-risk activity, but if you modify the high-risk activity, then you can minimize the
And we did have programs around this city this year in the city, sporting events. We did have the pool that was open. We had the the water parks that were open. So it could be done, but you need cooperation by everybody.
Yes,
Now,
yeah.
what is the fall going to look like? Because there are things we can't do and there are things that we can do. So more hikes. If there's a particular group that wants to come down and organize a hike, that's something we can help them with.
Yes.
What
yeah.
else?
Well, I've got adult exercise. They can sign up for that. But
Smaller
but it's a
groups?
smaller group. And then yoga as well. We're going to offer probably a couple of different classes with smaller groups here. We'll do them outside, but if the weather, if it's too cold or rainy, then we can go inside. There is enough spacing that we can be 6 feet apart from everyone. So we'll do that, and then I'll work with the Leominster Trail stewards to offer some hikes, and we're also looking at right now. They're going to be redoing the tennis courts. They're going to fill in
Right.
all the cracks at the courts. They're going to install 4 pickleball courts, and those pickleball courts will be all painted and there'll be new nets up. So that's going to be at Doyle, and they'll be redoing filling in the cracks at the basketball courts also, and painting those courts. But we aren't able to offer basketball as a high-risk activity right now. So we have to wait to see if once that's open. But we'll be ready. All the courts will be painted. It's a perfect time when no one's using the court to paint them and to fill in all the cracks.
So tell us, I get asked quite frequently, what is pickleball?
What is pickleball?
Yeah.
Well, pickleball is
A little bit like tennis.
it's a little bit like tennis or table tennis, or like a racquetball. It's a smaller racket, similar to like a racquetball one, but it's like a wooden type paddle, a small paddle, and the ball is like a wiffle ball, so it travels a lot slower. And with pickleball, usually it's a smaller court, and the net's a little bit lower, and usually there's 4 that are on a court, 2 on each side, so you don't run as much. You do run, but not as much. So it's a little bit slower than tennis, and it's one of the fastest growing sports
Yeah.
in the whole country.
Yes.
Pickleball has really
It's
taken
very
off.
competitive too.
Yes.
And
yeah.
anybody, I mean, I see the seniors down there, and I wouldn't go against them, but pretty much anybody can play, right? I mean, you can pick up on the game
Yeah,
pretty quickly.
and there's a lot of, we have a lot of people in Leominster willing to show you how to play pickleball, to welcome you in to try it out and to join them in. They kind of rotate who's in and out and who's been up. So there's been a group of, really active people in the community, which is wonderful for the community to have, a sport. Mostly it's, seniors that play, so that's great. And this year I've seen more and more people out there playing tennis. In the past you see only a few
Wow.
people,
Yeah.
but we've sold.
What else was there to do for a while, right?
I know.
Come hiking, ride your
Yes,
bike,
yeah,
play
yeah,
tennis, outdoor sports,
yeah.
family sort of things.
We do control it by locking it so that anyone that purchases a key have the understanding that these
Right.
are the rules to, for tennis etiquette.
And you have to
and
monitor
that
it that
you can't
way.
have, bicycles riding on it or skateboards or people tagging it and spray painting it. So it's a little more control that way. And then the fees that we charge help to pay for if you need new nets or there's maintenance that need to be done on the courts. And plus it's being put back in to help with the painting and the also. So that the fee that we charge, which is a nominal
Just
fee.
goes back into the facility.
Yeah, it goes right back into the facility.
My name is Dean Mazzarella, Mayor for the City of Leominster. The name of the show is Inside Leominster. And if this is the first time watching, we try to bring information to you, talk about what's happening around the city. And if there's a topic that you'd like us to discuss, or is there a location that you would like us to do our show from, we are probably at least another month away at minimum that we'll be pre-taping shows. And we've been at Shoalin Farms, and we were at the new park on Mechanic Street. So we'll keep traveling around the city, but just a beautiful day here. It started off muggy this morning, but I can see that maybe it's the cold front coming through, but the air is crisper and clearer, and exciting times because Shoalin Farms is now open 7 days a week. And I bit into a peach last night. I needed a bib. It was so good. In fact, I need one right now. I'm probably going to try to scoot up there and steal one off the tree, but it was so good. And the color on them, just the color, just beautiful. They have apples, still have blueberries they're picking. and from what I understand, they're having some very busy weeks. And it's busy here. I don't know if you can see, if you can pan around.
Well, I think in the morning people thought it was going to rain, so
so they
there
might
weren't
have
that
stayed
many
away.
here.
But there were groups here. I can see
this-
people out here walking, and there were kids over there playing on the.
Well, we just had a group of about 40 people that were here, and
Yeah.
they had just
They
left.
meet in the
They
morning?
they were meeting in the morning, having their coffee and donuts, and gathering, and just talking, and
They keep
they
spaced.
keep social distance. That's
Sure.
why the big pavilion's great for them, and so they had just left. So it's nice to see the parking lot was full this morning.
Stores must have started. I know in our store we started putting out fall merchandise, and people say, "Well, why do you do that? It's too early." I'm like, "Well, it takes a while to set up.
Yeah.
It's to transition from season to season. So you got to start putting it out there. Plus, people like to look at what's coming in, what's happening for the next season. So, same for us. People are now talking about the fall and Halloween, and we have the largest Halloween parade in the state. And we have for so many years. What about that? And I've said, sit tight. Well, we'll try to be able to do something. Maybe we might have to do certain age groups. So we might have to do from this age group to this age group is on Friday night. This age group to this age group is Saturday. And this age group, we might have to, and we may have to, set some line. I mean, I'd hate to cancel Halloween. I really would. We had last year we did Halloween at the mall, if you remember, because of the weather, and it worked out pretty well. I mean, a lot of people went to. Remember they were moving the day. Remember
Right.
people were moving the day. A lot of
because
communities,
of the storms,
and then a lot of people.
some people canceled
Yeah.
Halloween.
So we were like, we're not canceling Halloween. So
Yeah.
we did sort of shift it around. We did have our parade Halloween night. We went to the mall and it was packed, and so. We've made no decision on that yet. It's a sit and wait. But we are sort of shifting how we're going to offer programs into the holiday season and into the fall.
Well, I
It's
think
just-
more people are going to get into decorating.
I
More
think so.
people are home. They're
They're
going to
home.
end up decorating, their
and we had a contest
homes
last year and the year
yes.
before.
Yeah.
We'll do that again this year. So people like to travel around as families.
Yeah.
We'll do the same thing with holiday decorations. When we did that whole bear in the window thing, I don't know how many there were. Days to find every bear in every window. The flamingos, same sort of thing. So that's what we're working on is how can we provide. We don't want to cancel like the holiday stroll is. People are pretty distant, and there isn't more than 25 people at each stop because you're really kind of moving around to each one. I know Rick Martian and Bob Healy are trying to plan something in lieu of Johnny Appleseed Festival. And so what I've suggested is maybe it's smaller pieces. Maybe it's the church and United Church that does
They do
the
the
ice
apple
cream and
crisp.
the apple crisp. That's an event in and of itself.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an avenue to do it. So I don't want to. We had to cancel the beer fest and the cannoli fest and we had to cancel the summer stroll and ladies' night out. We're going to try to still do in the fall, but I'd hate to do that because especially if there are things that we can do safely, because I think there's really an appetite for people to get back to some sort of a social thing, even if it's just to wave somebody across the hall. I see churches become like a social way for people to interact, because for so long they didn't see anybody in their church. And now they're back, and some of the churches are doing outdoors, some are back indoors, but you have to kind of schedule it so there aren't as many people in there. Hand sanitizer on the way in and mask and keep your distance, and then when they release everybody, sort of go right to your car, and it's not that.
Well, people in Leominster have been really good about
They've
that, and
been
I think that's why
very
the numbers are
cooperative.
down.
Yes.
They're putting their mask on.
So we're
and-
going to work hard to try to still have the Festival
Yeah.
of Trees.
Yeah.
That never has 50 people at once. It's
Right.
got groups that come in and then
Right.
families that come through. But we can maybe provide something in the hallways. That's a little bit of an overflow that you go to before you head into the Festival of Trees. So there are a lot of ways that we can do it, but we're not backing away from most things.
Maybe
Gingerbread
people-
house.
Right.
Maybe the gingerbread contest this year, but the gingerbread house, but done maybe by age groups, with more of the art groups that are around town that can help us in maybe different locations. So there's
One thing I always like to see, which it hasn't really taken off, or because of the weather, and you never know what it's going to be like, is to see people doing snow sculptures in the park,
Yes.
or snowmen, or decorating that. Every time we try and offer it, there's no snow, or it's too warm.
I was
So
out in
we tried
Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, and it's got to be 15 degrees below zero, but probably 20. Not a lot of wind. And they had at the end of Detroit Lakes, at the end of town, what we would call town, it literally comes to an end when it comes to the Detroit Lakes. And they have this incredible ice sculpture park devoted to all ice sculptures. Now, they have a better chance of having, like those ice sculptures are probably there till May. I mean, here, you know, the weather pattern is strange where
Right.
it'll get real cold, and that was the problem with freezing ice last year, is it got real cold early, then it thawed, but water doesn't freeze in an ice rink, it freezes in layers. So we didn't have that, so it might have looked like an inch of ice on the top, and as soon as you stepped on it, you went through. But there, so depending on the weather, you're right. That's an outdoor activity.
We tried to do the ice rink. It was very difficult last year.
So this year, that's something we can try. We were, you know, so we're looking at all of those things, and if anybody has ideas, by all means, let us know, or you want to help. What are the kinds of things where I'm hoping that Tyler up on Tolman Ave, it looks like he's going to do an outdoor Halloween display, and it looks like he's going to do an outdoor Christmas display. More of that. So we're looking at Carter Park as the concrete walkway, as putting displays along the walkway, and we'd have music in there, there was lights in there, and you would walk circular and get to visit the different displays and see the lights and take pictures or whatever. So if anybody has any ideas, please reach out to us at City Hall 978-534-7500 extension 0. You can email us, message us, tweet us, whatever it might be, on smaller events that we can do, even if they're during the week, with little art things, maybe up here where maybe there's 6 or 8 at a time, and they come between 4 and 5, and then 5 and 6 is another group, you know, sort of smaller groups, but we don't want to miss that special part of the season. And again, as we you know, make our way into fall, things will be a little bit different, but there'll be apple picking, and a lot of what happened before will happen. It'll just happen in a little bit of a different way, right? So think about that, but we don't want to discourage things from happening. I'm actually going to try to do the tractor parade.
Oh,
that was something that didn't bring, you know, 500 people, but it was you know, 50 or so people, families spread out. So I'm going to try that again. I have to pick a date. We're going to do on September 12th, we're going to do the yard sale, the citywide yard sale. And so, yeah, that's what we're hoping, that, you know, we can continue to do these sorts of things. So, listen, we don't have all the ideas. There's a lot of good ideas that are out there. I Facebooked out there last week, and I said, hey, I want to, from my phone, I want to be able to connect to Bluetooth. And at one time, you could only do one. Oh, the geniuses out there were able to help me. They're like, you can hook up 8 speakers. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. Because I want to do beyond one, and I want at least 2, maybe 3. And boy, they had all the answers, the websites to go to. So I'm asking the same sort of thing. Send us out, refer us out to other places that have done other things. But we really do want to have a good fall here. I think we're noted for our festivals and events. And other communities are out here all the time visiting us, because it's like, how do you do it? Like so many city-owned orchard and so many different events in the city. How do you guys do it? And we're like, well, a lot of hard work, a lot of teamwork, and a lot of people helping us out, and great sponsors from the community.
Yeah.
And a good city council that understands the importance of this, and we do as much as we possibly can without using taxpayers' dollars, which means we have to go out there and raise money. All right. What did we forget? I want to leave this opportunity for you, because we have a whole region map here, the Montezut regional map.
Oh, yes, yeah. Well,
of trails,
actually,
which is an awesome document here.
But you can go online. I have the map here to Mr. Mapper, and you can even capture their QR code on this map, or you can just go on their website, and it's a huge map of the whole Montezut region, of all the trails that are within the whole region. You know, it covers all the way up, you know, Ashby and Townsend, and Groton and down to Sterling and Devons and Harvard area. And on the backside it has Hubbardston and Athol and Gardner and Templeton, Westminster. So, and they're also right now working on a regional bike map as well, so that if you want to go biking, there'll be different places that you can bike. But that's
That's a great. Did you see Shoalin Farms has a new brochure? Excellent. Quality is really good.
Oh,
I mean,
nice.
we're stepping it up. It has been wild. I mean, they've had great success this year and great support because we missed out on a couple of the big events there.
So I have the maps at our office, or you can go just go to the Montezut Regional Trails Coalition or the Regional Planning Commission has they paid for these maps through
How much
a grant.
time we got, guys?
Also, so right now it's going to be a warm, humid day, but at the park here is always a nice breeze off of the pond. There's a lot of shade here with the trees, so on a hot day, it's not really hot here at the park. It's a beautiful day. There's a nice breeze coming in.
I saw a lot of kids riding their bikes here.
Yeah, people come and ride their bikes, and it's so nice to see when parents bring their little children here, and it's their first time riding a bike, and they're training them, and they get their training wheels on. So you can do that. That's something that you can bring the kids here. If you do, use the playground, just make sure that you social distance, and then bring hand sanitizer if you use any equipment. There's a playground here. We have multiple playgrounds throughout the city. The splash park is open right now. It's going to be warm, so
keep it open as long as it can.
Yeah, my staff has gone back to college that we're monitoring that. So we'll try and keep it open. If we don't have a monitor, we'll still try and keep it open because it's going to be hot this weekend for people to be able to use that.
I was our first show on the road of this season. We were at the new park on Mechanic Street, and I was there with my daughter and my grandson last week, sometime last week, and it felt so good to see all the people using the park first and caring for it, and all the people that used it for so many different things.
Right.
There was a family doing a volleyball game. There were kids playing in the playground, and you just forget we missed that interaction. The kids talking to other kids at the playground, and there were people walking the loop there, and people driving their bikes, and people just sitting up top where the tables are, eating or playing cards or playing a game, and it's so satisfying to see that, knowing that it's been over 50 years since there've been any recreational facilities in a neighborhood that has 3, 4, 5,000 people there, and so that's encouraging, and I'm sure that'll attract more families to come to the area.
If people wanted to come and bring their own little badminton set here, there's open lawns. You can just put your badminton net up and play badminton, or if you want to do a little volleyball, but you can't do close contact with that. That's why we didn't put a volleyball net, because of close contact, having games here. But if people want to bring their own in and have a small group that use social distance.
So somebody's watching and they're saying, so what are they talking about? Well, my name's Dean Mazzarella. I'm the mayor of the city of Leominster, and Judith Sumner is the director at the Leominster Recreation Department, and we are at Barrett Park, Barrett Park, and this is off of Chestnut Street. So if you're coming into the city and you're coming in from the north or from the west, and you're driving down Route 12 and you hit subways, take a right. You're going to go about 1.5 miles up the street and take another right. There's a sign out there. Take another right. You'll see Leominster Ice on the right-hand side. And then, we're right at the top of the hill. I remember I was having this flashback last week when we were having our department head meeting here, or just the other day, there used to be at the end of the property, there was a little building. And I don't know if it was it
was privately owned.
It was privately owned. They had a concession stand.
Yeah.
And they sold candy bars and I think ice cream and all that. I had that quick flashback. And that's what we're trying to do, create memories here, give families things to do and people alternatives to maybe what they were doing. And I realize that some people are going to take, vacations, or there are other parts of the state to see that maybe you haven't. But boy, if you own property here, you have the largest backyard. You own the largest backyard of anybody anywhere even close to us. And it's all connected. And so we've got some precious natural resources here. Anything that I forgot, Judy, before I'm going to kick into a whole nother segment?
No,
but
I think that's it.
we covered it all.
We have. You have.
It's good. Thank you for the work that you do, and
You're welcome.
it seems like we're getting there. People always like, oh, it looks good. I'm like, my answer is it should be, yeah, thank you. We're working hard. It's always we're getting there. Not quite where we want it yet, but we are. I mean, we've made tremendous progress.
And I don't know if people even realize that I have one maintenance supervisor that works full time here year round, and
Everybody else is
and then I
part-time.
have a part-time senior that comes in to help with the trash. So one thing that would be helpful is if you do come to the park and bring a lot of, things for picnicking.
Yeah. Take 'em with
if
you.
you take it back, because we just don't have
like
staff.
in the summertime,
to
it's like 2
do
people
things.
full time just going around picking up trash.
Yes, yeah. So right now we are, one person full time and then a part-time person here. So it's a lot of work to pick up trash. So we would, we need to also make sure that all the playgrounds are safe, to make sure that any maintenance issues are addressed. So if you see anything that needs maintenance within a park, just make sure that you contact our office or the mayor's
Yeah,
office,
let us know.
and then it'll be click and fix.
If there's small groups, I know that the We Love You Too Foundation
Yes.
wants to do another project. We were trying to think of how to get them involved in maybe some projects. And so what I was thinking is in the fall, when remember we did that one day, 2 days, one at Fournier Field and another day down at the end of Lancaster Street. And it was both days. It
was
had to be.
the hottest day of the year.
Yeah, both days. And those poor kids, and they come from everywhere, and they had smiles on their face ear to ear. They're so excited. And I've been staying in touch with them, by the way. And so we're
Nice.
trying to find some projects. So what I suggested is maybe some smaller projects.
Well, we're thinking of the rail trail. If once that, is, completed, that maybe they can come and help us with some parts of that, the new rail trail,
Right.
bike trail coming in.
Right. But they were thinking like this fall.
Day of Caring is coming up
Oh, yeah.
actually on the 18th, Friday the 18th of this month. So the Leominster Trail Stewards are working with them, and we're working on maybe having a work site on one of the trails to clean up, a trailhead area.
I was thinking of groups now. We're going to be doing remote learning from home. I don't know how long that's going to go on. But I was thinking of maybe groups, the group that built beds over at Leominster Credit Union. They built beds, twin beds for families and kids that, need a bed. I was thinking, must be on Pinterest. There must be a quick kind of project-based thing that we can build desks for kids. Nothing
for
fancy,
their
but just a
homes.
little
That's a good
desk
idea.
that we
Yeah.
can, made out of wood and, a little Abraham Lincoln. Do you know that they still had inkwells in school
I remember that.
when I was here?
I remember
Is that
those.
inkwells? That's how old I am, buddy. It's at inkwells. You know what that is?
Oh, yeah.
What is it?
It's a little container.
Yeah, so, right, but it was built into the desk.
Into the desk, the top
Right.
of the desk.
So you would sit there and actually had a pen. Now that we didn't actually have ink pens, but we had the ink well, and then they would take the pen. And my grandfather used to write in with an ink pen and an ink well, a little thing of ink.
Use the ink well.
It's so cool to watch him. Birthday cards and Christmas cards. That was
You
so
use
cool.
that. Yeah.
I don't know if anybody does it anymore. I
I
assume
think people
they
that do
do.
calligraphy
Yeah.
use those.
But
as
I
well.
was thinking, how cool is that to
Yeah.
but maybe we can build little desks for kids so that we can get them in their house so that they actually have an area set aside just for school, right? So like discipline. Okay, we're going to school. Let me get my lunchbox. Heading out. 32 sandwiches,
desk.
4 apples, right? Heading out now, get my backpack, get all dressed up, and then walk 10 feet, take it all off.
Or have like the family room in the basement. This is
Right.
the desk areas.
This is
your
school.
office. This is your own office. No, kids have their own home office.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So
yeah.
that will be nice.
Little designated spot.
Your home office.
Little inkwell. Well, thank you, Judy, for joining us.
thank you for having me.
Going to wrap up in a couple of minutes, but we've done well in terms of the numbers. 708 total, and I realized there are maybe 13 deaths in Leominster associated with COVID, and we were hoping 0 in my discussions with nursing homes. They did so well for so long, and then just ought to hit the nursing homes and went through, and there were even people that tested positive for COVID, and tested positive and survived it, but then they got pneumonia, and that at the end of the day was what was fatal for them. And so we've done well, but not good enough. We're in the green category, so it's unshaded. They call it gray, green, yellow, and red. Red you don't want to be in, and yellow's not too great either. But we're in the category of green. We're at, I think, some small amount, like 0.76 or 72 or 70 per 100,000 people. And so that's really good. Getting to white or unshaded or gray is what they call it is a little more difficult. But I noticed a lot of communities in this past week went backwards. So they were at yellow, went to red, they were at green, they went to, that's where we got to be careful.
I said Labor Day weekend is what you
Labor
have to
Day
be
weekend,
very careful
but
with
you know,
that.
think about it. All the businesses stayed open here in the city of Leominster, manufacturing. We had summer and we had sports. We didn't write it all off. People have been playing tennis and we've had pickup sports where we couldn't control it, but the Bravehearts played. We had Babe Ruth. We had Legion Ball. We had Lassie League. We had
baseball, all the baseball leagues,
softball,
and soccer had skills and drills.
And still, we're at 5 to 7 test positives. Right. And one of my observations is, even though there was graduation and everything was like spaced out, later in the day, I sort of observed that a lot of those kids and parents left to go to parties. So even after all of that, and that just means that people are practicing social distancing, putting masks on when they can't, staying away, remaining away from those people that are most vulnerable and keeping them safe. That's what that means. That's the full report at the end of the day is it means people are paying attention. And I noticed I was walking on a sidewalk the other day and I was away from everybody, but somebody yelled at me from like across the street, you're subjecting us to, and I'm like, I didn't have my hat in my hand because there's nobody around. It was the nice day that we had. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to argue with people, but they're like, you're endangering us. And I'm like, how? You're like, And when I get closer, I notice a lot of people. I just put my mask on. So we've done well. We're down to 8 cases. There are 2 test positive Health Alliance, as you're watching this show. There are 0 in intensive care. All the indicators are good, but what it means is you've just got to continue with this way of practice. Masks are going to be around for a while. They're talking about a vaccine, but even that's going to take a while to unfold. Flu season, they're trying to get the curve on that. So all in all good indicators so far. You got to keep that up. Yeah, people will have, hopefully it's a little cool around Labor Day and people I've been to, where was I? One of our parks, and there were 8 ladies in a circle, all more than 6 feet apart, having I don't know if it was a book group or whatever it was, but no problem. You can still operate in this environment and do it safely. How are we doing for time? Somebody's got to let me know once in a while, if you don't mind.
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. Judy, thank you. And we'll wrap the show a little bit. I want to thank you guys for coming out. And yeah, if there's a place that you want us to visit, by all means, let us know. A couple of projects that are happening. If you're up in that Linda Labs area, we're replacing a 16-inch pipe. A pipe that goes to your house is 1 inch. This is a major pipe. It's a major project to go on for at least 2 weeks. And there'll be some disruption in terms of water pressure, water quality, maybe a little brownish on occasion, but that's because we're doing this much needed project. We are out to bid on the Route 13 project, and we are spending a lot of time working on a traffic management plan for that area and a safety plan. At the end of the day, we're going to move more cars through those intersections. It'll be safer. So that's a positive note. And a number of restaurants, there are a number of businesses that had planned on expanding or opening, and those continue. The Registry of Motor Vehicles is open by appointment, but those that are 75 years or older, they have reserved Wednesdays. Go to their website to get the exact details. That's pretty cool. I'm not 75, but it's pretty cool that they're going to reserve this. That's the high-risk group, and we want to be careful about that. We know that many of them drive their cars and they're safe, or they want an ID. We don't want you sitting at the Registry of Motor Vehicles all day. If you go to the Registry of Motor Vehicles, you will see that they will give you some sort of either a paging system, or they'll text you and tell you when you're up. So no need to get there 2 hours in advance or anything. People have been getting there. It's turned into like Woodstock, and people are peeing in the shrubs, and it's not been pretty. So it's do what you can online. If you can't do it online, get an appointment. If your appointment's at 9, show up at 5 or 10 minutes early, and they'll text or some sort of a beeper that they give you if you don't have one. But either way, everyone's trying hard to accommodate you. And school will be starting soon. We are at 100% remote. It's going to take some patience. A number of, I have really reduced my news sources. I'll look at it, but I'm always subject to a little bit, not paranoia, but a little bit of doubt. And just because it seems like everybody's trying to prove their point. But I have said, the Wall Street Journal has been and I don't own any stock or anything, but that's what I've really paid attention to it. They have really helpful information there. Now, I know everybody can afford to do that, but I'm going to scan in some articles and some editorials that I saw. And one is about how to do Chromebook programming so that you can put, parental controls on them, and how to prepare for remote learning. So there's some really good things in there that I'll share on my Facebook page and here at Inside Leominster. Thank you again, Judy. Thank you guys for coming out. I'm at the squinting stage right now. But we are at Barrett Park. My name is Dean Mazzarella, your mayor. And you can always reach me at 978-534-7500, extension 0. You can text us and call us and Facebook message us and tweet us and every other way to reach us, and is actually old-fashioned email now, believe it or not, right? Old-fashioned email. Okay, thank you for watching. Good night. God bless you. Remember, the world's run by those who show up. Please show up.